The Billionaire by Maxim Gorky. The keys of steel, and petroleum, and all other kings of the United States have always, in a high degree, excited my power of imagination. It seems to me certain that these people who possess so much money could not be like other mortals, each of them. So I said to myself, must call his own at least 3 stomachs and 150 teeth. I did not doubt that the millionaire ate without intermission from 6 o'clock in the morning till midnight. It goes without saying, the most exquisite and sumptuous viands. Towards evening, then, he must be tired of all the hard chewing to such a degree that, so I pictured to myself, he gave orders to his servants to digest the meals that he had swallowed with satisfaction during the day. Completely limp, covered with sweat, and almost suffocated, he had to be put to bed by his servants in order that the next morning at 6 o'clock he might be able to begin again his work of eating. Nevertheless, it must be impossible for such a man, whatever pains he may take, to consume merely the half of the interest of his wealth. To be sure, such a life is awful. What is one to do? For what is one a millionaire? What am I saying? A billionaire? If one cannot eat more than every other common mortal. I pictured to myself that this privileged being wore cloth of gold, underclothing, shoes with gold nails, and instead of a hat, a diadem of diamonds on his head. His clothes made of the most expensive velvet, must be at least 50 feet long and fastened with 300 gold buttons, and on holidays he must be compelled by the dire necessity to put over each of his 6 pairs of costly trousers. Such a costume is certainly very uncomfortable, but if one is rich like that, one can, after all, dress like the world. The pocket of a billionaire, I pictured to myself, so big that therein that easily a church or a whole senate could find room. The paunch of such a gentleman, I can see to myself like the hull of an ocean steamer, the length and breadth of which I was not able to think out. Of the bulk, too, of a billionaire, I could never give myself a clear idea. But I suppose that the coverlet under which he sleeps must measure a dozen hundred square yards. If he chews tobacco, it was unquestionably the best kind, of which would always stick 2 pounds at a time in his mouth. And taking snuff, I thought to myself, he must use it up in a pound at a pinch. Indeed, money will be spent. His fingers must possess the magic power of lengthening at will. In spirit, I saw a New York billionaire as he stretched out his hand across the Bering Strait and brought back $1 that had rolled somewhere towards Siberia without especially exerting himself thereby. Curiously, I could form to myself no clear conception of the head of this monster. In this organism consisting of gigantic muscles and bones that is made of squeezing money out of all things, a head seemed to me quite superfluous. Who now can conceive my astonishment when, standing facing one of these fabulous beings, I arrived at the conviction that a billionaire is a human being like all the rest. I saw there, comfortably reclining in an armchair, a long, wizened old man who held his brown, sinewy hands folded across his body, of quite ordinary dimensions. His flabby skin of his face was carefully shaved. The upper lip, which hung loosely down, covered solidly built jaws in which gilded teeth were stuck. The upper lip, smooth, narrow, and pallid, scarcely moved when the old man spoke. Colorless eyes without brows, a perfectly bald skull, it might be thought that a little skin was wanting to this reddish face, to this countenance that was expressionless and puckered out like that of a newborn. Was this being just beginning its life, or was it already nearing its end? Nothing in his dress distinguished him from the ordinary mortal. A ring, a watch, and his teeth were all gold that he carried with him, scarcely half a pound, all told. Taken altogether, the appearance of the man recalled that of an old servant of an aristocratic family in Europe. The furnishings of the room in which he received me had nothing unusually luxurious about it. The furniture was solid. That is all that could be said. Oftentimes, elephants probably came into this house. I involuntarily thought at the sight of the heavy, substantial pieces of furniture. Are you a billionaire? I asked, since I could not trust my eyes. Yes, indeed, he answered, nodding convincingly with his head. How much meat can you consume for breakfast? I eat no meat in the morning, he avowed. A quarter of an orange and an egg, a small cup of tea, that's all. His innocent, childlike eyes blinked with feeble luster, like 2 drops of muddy water. Good, I began again, half disconcerted. But be honest with me, tell the truth. How often a day do you eat? Twice, he answered peacefully. Breakfast and dinner suffice me. At noon I take soup, a little white meat, vegetables, fruit, a cup of coffee, a cigar. My surprise grew apace. I drew a breath and went on. But if that's true, what do you do with all your money? I make more money. What for? To make more money out of that. What for? I repeated. He leaned towards me, his hand supported by the arm of his chair, and with some curiosity in his expression, he said, You're probably cracked. And you? I said. The old man inclined his head, and whistling softly through the gold of his teeth, he said, No, wag, you're the first human being of your species that I ever became acquainted with. Then he bent his head down and looked at me with some time, silently and scrutinizingly. What do you do? I began again. I make money, he answered shortly. Oh, you're a counterfeiter, I explained joyfully, for I thought I had finally got to the bottom of the mystery. But the billionaire flew into a passion. His whole body shook. His eyes rolled actively. That's unheard of, he said. When he had calmed down, he inflated his cheeks. I don't know why. I considered, but put further the following question to him. How do you make money? Oh, that's very simple. I possess railroads. Farmers produce useful commodities, which I transport to the markets. I calculate exactly to myself how much money I must leave the farmer in order that he may not starve and be able to produce further. The rest I keep for myself as transportation charges. That's surely very simple. And are the farmers satisfied with it? Not all, I believe, he answered with a naive childishness. But they say that the people are never satisfied. There's always odd characters who still want more. The end.